Good afternoon. It might be very boring to hear me two times. Yeah, but we'll keep it interesting. I'll not take a lot of time. So I am Kalpesh Bhausar, founder of a ERP named as PM Track, like Production and Material Tracking. So, and our company name is Cloud9 ERP Technologies. So we, as the name suggests, we implement ERP softwares in medium and small scale industries mainly. So when it comes to transformation to scale, means for the MSME, the transformation is not as big as any OEM. So for them, it is more important when it comes to the transformation. It can be across their multiple plants. It can be across multiple GST numbers under the same group company. So this is what the limitation of scaling for an MSME industry is. But still, they are facing a lot of challenges when it comes to the actual scaling up of ERP across the multiple the organizations which comes under their same group company. So the one and the foremost biggest challenge for any ERP or any manufacturing industry or any kind of business is to choose the right ERP. So this is where the thing starts, like exploring the new systems, then hiring the best vendors, finding out the best SMEs to work in lines with the organizations as well as the service providers in order to ensure the timelines are meet up, the requirements are getting fulfilled. So this is one of the big challenge where the industries have to decide for the right technology and the right ERP partner in this. So for this, there has to be a clear strategy or a clear statement like why an organization needs to implement a ERP system. So if this why is not clear, then the ERP is never going to be a success in the system. So this is how, this is the basic, very basic when it comes to the selection of ERP as well as starting off with this journey of scaling up the business in this. So means when you say your strategy should be clear is why you are implementing an ERP system. Like, is it for the inventory control? Or is it for your supply chain optimization? Or is it for IoT integration? Maybe your old vendor is not supporting for this technology. Or there can be a number of problem statements. So it is very important to jot down all the things for which the organization feels there needs to be an ERP system. So there has to be a clear strategy. Then what we have seen as a service provider from our perspective is whenever the company plans to buy an ERP system, there are a lot of demos which are taken into this, and this only creates confusion and increases the confusion with the manufacturing organizations. Like the owners are totally confused to buy or take the decisions. So whenever it comes to an adoption of ERP, it is more important. Like none of the ERP is 100%. If you say there are shortcomings in the system, and so it is very important to just find the right player who will ensure the right kind of services when it comes to the ERP system implementation. You can't find a 100% right product in any kind of market fit. Like it's a myth. Like any ERP product will fulfill all issues in the organization. None of the product is going to make or give it 100% in this. So so you means many people overthink when it comes to the selection of the software or the ERP software. So there has to be a clear strategy, like find the right supplier who has experience in implementing the ERP across similar kind of industries, and you can simply adopt those service providers in this. Then what I have seen particularly is when it comes to the implementation of the ERP in the organization, in Indian market especially, there is only the product cost which is considered. there is no cost given to the implementation of the product. Whereas if you see trends in US as well as European countries, there is a lot of investment done in the implementation of the ERP. So if my ERP cost is X, the implementation cost is 2X. So why I'm emphasizing on this is, even we have couple of failed ERP implementations, and when we did the root cause analysis of this is, there is no ownership in the organization, and they haven't involved any third party or any subject matter expert to implement the ERP in the organization, only because of the cost. So when it comes to the implementation of ERP, it is very important to have a separate budget for the implementation of the ERP. And there is a very big gap when it comes to actual after the actual go live of the ERP. So what I have observed in my journey is, we have implemented ERP in more than 400 manufacturing organizations now. So हम अच्छे हैं, हम कर देते हैं changes. So we are a very customer centric company. So many of you might be facing this issue कि यार कस्टमर के साथ रिलेशन टिकाऊं या मैं मनी मांगूं उससे. So many times we have to be customer centric, but at the same time we cannot completely miss the budgets of the ERP and उसको सर्विस ही देते रहे. So उसके लिए बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है कि प्रायर फंड पे कस्टमर को यू शुड से कि whatever scope which we are defining for the ERP, you have to tell him consider it as only 80%, and 20% will come after actual go live, and you should be ready to invest in that 20%. So only if you do this, then only the ERP implementation can be successful. या फिर वो half hearted implementation हो जाएगा, and it will be difficult to get the money and satisfy the customer in this. So this is also a very important aspect, like there has to be a considerable investment in implementation as good as the product cost in this, which is missed in the Indian manufacturing industry mainly. Then बहुत से बार क्या होता है, to sell the product we misguide the customer many of times with the timelines as well as the budget of the ERP. कुछ नहीं, बाद में देख लेंगे, बाद में आ जाएगा कस्टमर से. So this is what the thought process is. We are in a very competitive environment where there means customer today is very cost centric. तो if I hype my cost, मैं बोल दूँ उसको this will be my cost, and if I know my competitor is offering at this cost, तो definitely I know there कि मैं business lose करने वाला हूँ. तो in this scenario I have to do a lot of compromise on the timelines, क्योंकि I have seen if I tell my timeline for ERP implementation in 6 months, तो my customer like a prospect will say ये तो 2 महीने में करके दे रहा है. तो I cannot be on 6 months. I have to tell him 2 months. Whereas it's a reality कि ERP implementation is going to take 6 months. So means in order to implement it in a proper way, that time has to be anticipated and that much time has to be given. So we have to be very clear in terms of timeline in order to make it a success. Means we have to convince the customer in such a way कि वो convince भी हो जाए कि definitely it is going to take time. अगर कोई मुझे 2 महीने में बोल के दे रहा है तो it is not going to happen. So in this way we should be able to convince the customer, considering the complexity of product again. Sometimes the implementations are very easy क्योंकि it's a straightforward implementation, but there are certain complex projects. So for that there has to be a very right timeline as well as budget given to the customer. तो उसको scale up करने में थोड़ा easy होगा in the organization. So many of the organization consider this as a IT project like ERP implementation, but this is basically the behavioral transformation of the organization completely, if you say. जैसे now the trend has completely changed. Even when we get the customer, he is using some or the other ERP. But for very small organizations where there is no data entry kind of tools, or he's using Excel, so for them it is very important means to make their people understand कि this everything is possible only if you are going to do the data entry in the ERP, or you are going to use it in the right manner. So this knowledge has to be passed on to the, particularly to the customer. Like, it's not an IT project, it's not only implementation of tool, but you'll have to religiously do the data entry in the ERP so that it will be a success in this. And then we have to convince our stakeholders who are involved in the implementation of the ERP, like how this implementation is going to transform the organization. And many a times there is a resistance from the team to implement any kind of systems, but it takes time for ERP to get fully implemented in the organization and get benefits out of the system. So utne time ke liye there has to be a proper hand holding, or there has to be that period given to the organization, ताकि वो data से actual outcome जो है, even our people will feel like really this is a useful tool. It takes time for that thing, for the transformation. So then there again has to be a risk assessment, which is mostly not considered when it comes to the scaling up of any organization with an ERP system. Risk in the sense कि many a times what happens is when the directors are involved in the project, ERP implementation project, they don't know that thin line कि इसके आगे जाएंगे तो ये product fail हो जाएगा. Or many times the young generation today is very clear कि what has to be in the ERP and what has to be out of the ERP. See, no ERP will 100% replace your Excels. There are certain areas which are very legacy based systems है जो वैसे ही चलने वाले हैं. So that clarity has to be given कि what should be a part of an ERP and what we cannot implement in a ERP system. So there are limitations from technology perspective as well. So this clarity has to be given in this. So risk assessment is very important. So when it comes to scaling, so I'll just summarize this. What is more important is firstly finding the right product for the right fit of the business from the manufacturing perspective. From the service provider perspective, it is very important to give the right timelines and the budgets. Otherwise, the project fails miserably. In terms of the service provider thinks कि service देते जा रहे हैं, पैसा तो नहीं आ रहा है, या फिर जो पैसा आना चाहिए था उतना भी नहीं आ रहा है, and we are in losses. So for that clarity has to be very much given to the provider. Then after the implementation, the change management, like बहुत से ERP stagnant हो जाते हैं. So there is no dynamism in the ERP system. Like even our customers are facing the same issue. Like we get a call from the customer, यार AMC मांग रहे हो बहुत दिनों से, but कुछ change तो नहीं दिख रहा है software में. So there is a mix of customers. Some customer wants change, some customer don't like any kind of changes in the ERP. So we have to identify key people who like dynamism in the system. Now we have few customers, एक भी field access आ गया, ज़्यादा आ गया screen के ऊपर, so they are confused. I don't want this. Why you are introducing this? Even if some add-on dashboard is added, so there वहाँ पे problem होता है to the customer. So we have to very clearly have a proper strategy when it comes to the change management as well. कि कितने लोगों को ये change affect करेगा, and how this change has to be rolled out to different set of customers. So this is also very important in this. So like for MSME, it is always a challenge to scale up based on the their resources, what they have. But still, it's a need of the organization today to scale up. Like they can adopt systems which are running in the OEMs basically. Like if you say Maruti Suzuki, MSIL particularly, so they are doing maze audit at their customers as well, at their supply chain, complete supply chain. And you have to be a green supplier in order to successfully deliver the material to the OEM as well as the tier 1 vendors. So this is a very perfect example wherein even the small organization today are feeling a need to have a system wherein they can monitor the forum changes which are happening in the organization and give the right set of data to the customer in order to be as a green supplier in this. So this is all about it, like the scaling of the organization as well as the systems in the organization is a mandatory need now. So any questions? Yeah. See, there are now so firstly तो उसका रहता है कि we are giving you an AMC contract. There is a contract. Do it free of cost. So we have to firstly identify ki what kind of change it is and how much man hours it is going to take to implement the change. And if it's really a complicated thing, then we charge the customer for that. So certain things which requires very less man day are delivered free of cost, and for the complicated things there is a contract with the customer. Anything which is going to take time, again it's a mutual thing. They tell कि आप 3 दिन बोल रहे हो, ये तो 1 दिन में हो जाएगा. So these kinds of statements are also there. But again, we have to charge the customer for the additional effort which we are putting in the ERP implementation. So both kinds of things can come, like free of charge as well as paid one. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not scaling up the ERP system, it is scaling up the organization with an ERP system. Yeah.
I'm using ERP solution.
Yes.
It's more than 10 years.
Right, right.
Okay, now I'm planning to go like migrate to new technology.
Right, right.
Okay, say I want to change entirely reporting system.
Right.
So it's what? It's a change. You'll suggest change or a completely go for a new ERP solution.
See, it depends on the service provider again. So if your ERP is dynamic enough and your service provider is ready to do those kinds of changes which you expect from the system, you can continue with the same vendor. Or it also depends on how the ERP is structured currently. Like if your ERP is running in silos, so you can have more integration in the ERP, and it's basically an organization's decision. Means dealing for last 10 years, you might be knowing whether the service provider is capable enough to deliver what we need in this system. So either you will need to change the ERP service provider or the product. If it's an open source system, you can change the provider in order to get better services from some other provider. Yeah. All right, fine. Thank you.